But in the end of the day, KSV is going to be the one doing the killing, taking out the rest of them, and taking out the Nexus in this 2-0 victory over Kingzone Dragon X.
KSV are so damn good at Standard League of Legends, Valdez. They were thrown so many...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's a decisive 2-0 victory for the world champions, KSV Esports, over the defending domestic champions, KZ. Didn't put up too much of a fight. Guys, these thoughts on the series? Overall, a bit quick, not expected. I mean, two of us have predicted it correctly. How do you feel, Samar?
Well, I feel great. Aaron and I, we were right 2-0 over to KSV. We saw a lot of problems coming up from Kingzone. Dragon X not having Kuntz and not having that top laner that they can always rely on in terms of to carry. I think that this game was better from them in terms of the early game, but they just still fell flat.
I don't want to put all of the blame on the fact that they didn't have Khan up in the top lane because
it's certainly a factor.
Rascal, yeah, it was a factor, definitely, but it's not like Rascal got hard dumpstered at all.
No.
He managed to hold his own and did quite well in that matchup against Cuvée on the Vladimir into the Gangplank. Had about a 30 CS lead on him for quite a bit into that game, although it doesn't quite mean anything because of Kleptomancy. My main issue in this game was honestly Peanut. He really did not get up to much at all in that game.
Okay, so not happy with the jungle performance. Dara, what do you think?
I definitely wasn't happy with Peanut's jungle performance. But I'd like to say that I was maybe a little bit optimistic with the side of Kingzone Dragon X, because coming into this, I gave them a little bit too much credit, maybe because of their win of the Caspa Cup 2017 against who were formerly Samsung Galaxy. I expected Samsung Galaxy to win the series, but I expected maybe, even though they didn't have Khan in the top lane, as Aaron was saying, that maybe Rascal would be able to help out the team and still be able to come out with one of the wins. Obviously, they didn't, but it was definitely down to the presence of Peanut. He basically wasn't there for most of the game, to be honest. He had no jungle pressure at all, and I think the Lee Sin pick was a little bit too out there.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there. In a moment, we're going to go to a replay that maybe displays Peanut's last grab for early game domination. You guys think it was draft, or do you think it maybe could have been played differently in the game? Aaron, what do you think about Peanut's movements around the map, how he impacted the game?
So I'm going to firstly talk about how, even though the draft decision of picking Lee Sin there, I honestly think was a bad idea. Okay, the replay's ready, so I'll talk about that point after the replay.
Replay right now. We'll get more in a mid-second.
So as we can see, we've got Ambition setting up in that... Oh, no, it's the bot lane first. So we have Braum just jumping in. It's a really nice ultimate land, and just... Even though the Tarak ultimate is burned, and they've got... Okay, no, I can't finish that because of that. Yeah, here's BDD just getting caught out in this river, and then Peanut trying to go for this 2v2 and set something up, but just gets caught out. And then as the Cosmic Radiance has now gone down from Kingzone, KSV are just able to continue that trade and to get the kill up on Prey because they've just got way more HP at the start of that fight.
Okay. So, a bit desperate, not really happening. Bot lane folding. I
think it was basically just a real lack of respect for the power of the Malzahar pick, because he didn't have a QSS. He was going in, and he was just like, I don't care about your Nether Grasp. I'm just going to take it to the face. I really don't care at all. So that just resulted in him dying. We see it with high-tier players all the time in competitive play. Like the other day, I say it the other day, it was probably last year sometime, we see Faker very often just sitting there in the middle of the lane recalling, and he's in his shop looking at items, and then he got caught out in a 2v1, and then he just gets blown up, sent back to the fountain. It happens all the time. I think it's just disrespect for the enemy team, or maybe overconfidence in oneself.
Maybe you just gotta brandish your weapons and just make them fear. I don't know. I get where you're going. Okay, Jesper, you wanted to talk about some of the out game stuff, some of the preparation, masteries and runes that went into this. Masteries don't exist.
Yes, I really want to talk about the bottom lane coming in from Kinzone Dragon X. I think that when you pick up Unsealed Spellbook Sivir, and obviously also pick up the Dematerializer, you give yourself an advantage in terms of getting the bottom lane priority. And I think that when you count that in with the Lee Sin investment coming in from KC, I think that it ends up becoming a bit of a problem for them, because obviously they had so much bottom lane control in the early stages of the game. But with them investing into Lee Sin, they didn't utilize this bottom lane control very efficiently, because they could have utilize the push in the bottom side to gain control over the mid lane, and then use that control from the mid lane to either try to snowball the top side or the bottom lane. But Peanut was busy trying to do something in the top lane without preparing it probably, and without having a Rascal in the right position to do so. Like, they tried to fight against Kuve all the time up there, but they didn't prep it correctly. They didn't have BDD all the time there. And therefore, I think that the Lee Sin ended up falling a little bit flat. And the idea about the Unsealed Spellbook and Dematerializer Sivir was right. It just wasn't the team that utilized it correctly.
You don't think they could get the run-up they needed to get that going?
No, it was like if you see a plane starting without too much of a runway, then it just ends up crashing. And that's exactly what happened in this game.
You heard it here first, guys. KZ crashing and burning in the trees, on fire, no hope. Dara, we saw a big turning point towards the end of that game. It was a little backwards and forwards. We could see KSV bit of stronger position, but there was a specific team fight here that we're going to go through in a moment. It just went. We don't have the replay. Never mind. Talk about KZ getting smacked by
well, I can still talk about the replay even though we don't have it there. It was a 4 versus 5 team fight towards the latter part of the game, and it was in favor of KZ, because the Rengar wasn't actually in the fight. Ambition was off in the jungle,
but he was no part of the interaction.
He was no part of the action at all, and they were winning it until they got a little bit of a flank from Core JJ and Ruler, and they just started to dominate them, then throwing out those Qs from Ruler, and they just started to shred through the line of Kingzone, and they just turned it around completely. Gorilla was forced to retreat. They didn't have the ultimate available, I think, the Cosmic Radiance, and they were just destroyed from there on. And it was just so hard for them to come back from that, especially when Ambition could just jump into the backline and take out Prey underneath the tower. Spell Shield did nothing at that point. And it was just so sad to see, because I had such high expectations for them coming into this series. I was thinking that they could take one game, maybe even potentially go for a second, because it's not just because they won the Caspa Cup in 2017, but because they have that synergy from Peanut, Prey, and Gorilla, all been on rocks before together. And just because they don't have the top layer they're used to doesn't mean that they won't be able to bring the game to KSV. And it was just really sad to see that they lack that coordination and lack that target priority in those team fights, in those crucial team fights. And that really cost them in the end.
Sounds good. Well, good if you're a KSV supporter, that is. Okay, commiserations, Dara. We blew it. Our predictions were so wrong.
I'm a little too
Jesper
optimistic.
and Aaron. Yeah, we both were. Your crystal balls are shiny. Good. Myself at least once a week. It keeps me warm. Okay, any closing thoughts? Are we looking forward to our next few series? I'm not sure who's playing, but how do you think patch 8.1 will develop as we go forward? Do we see any critical errors or critical advantages in these games?
Khan will be back in KZ.
We'll start with that. Go ahead.
So that's a critical advantage for Kingzone Dragon X, is Khan will now be back.
That's a big one.
Yes, that's one. I also think that for KSV, I think that they played really well in this game. There obviously are some places that they can improve. Specifically, I would like to see more from Ambition. I felt like he was a little bit left behind today. Wasn't playing to his standard from the World Championship. He was, after all, the MVP of that tournament, and I think that he can become much better. Obviously, Peanut didn't do a lot today either, so the two junglers, they definitely weren't the defining factors for the victory in this game.
Okay, I feel we maybe have to give them that one. They've had the off season. Ambition spent some time with his wife. He's had that holiday he really needed. Maybe a bit rusty coming back in. I agree that the junglers didn't close it out today. I mean, Rengar was still great fun to watch. Dara, what are your closing thoughts?
I'm pretty much in the exact same boat as Benvarmeren. Benvarmeren, I should say, not the junglers were basically non-existent for most of the game, for most of both of those games. So I would give the edge to Ambition. He was much more impactful in the games. Although Peanut did have his moments now and then, I think he was far too disrespectful and didn't have the 2 picks that they should have gone for. They did ban away a lot of the top tier jungles, the top tier jungle picks, but I think that Lee Sin is a far lower priority than other junglers that were available. And I think Rengar was fine to pick into this team comp, but the Malzahar, you could have picked something much better than the Rise, I think, into the Malzahar. And I think that Lee Sin should have shown a lot more respect for that Malzahar pick, because that really was the linchpin of the team comp coming out from KSV.
Okay. All right. Is that us all done? I think that's us all done. The series is certainly done. Any final shout-outs or goodbyes to the series? They're sailing off into the distance. We're a bit late. I've Tom Temporal Nash, a big shout out to your analysts, Aaron Halcyon Edwards, Jesper, Benvarmeren, Kuntz, and Darxil. We'll see you next week. Hopefully,
Maybe.
Thank you. I'm good.